Today I want to show you the details of the Anubis rocket. This is one of the main characters in my Infected on the Mun movie and has appeared in many of my videos. I've spent hours designing it, and not everything is shown in the movie, so I thought it might be interesting to uncover a few secrets about it. So let's take a closer look. Anubis is a large two-stage rocket designed for a manned mission to the surface of the Mun and back. It consists of a liftoff section, the circularization stage, the Anubis itself, and the Osiris landing module in the bay. The lowest stage consists of a huge 3.7 meter tank as well as a Mammoth engine. Because of good thrust vectoring on the Mammoth, this stage is equipped with non-moving stabilizers to reduce weight, cost, and improve reliability. This stage would set Anubis on a suborbital flight and splash down in the ocean. Because of this, the engine is rated only for one ignition and doesn't support throttle control. Still, this was a very expensive engine, but it did provide good safety and excellent performance at all altitudes. The second stage is responsible both for circularization to orbit and the translunar injection. As Anubis has a very streamlined shape, it takes a rather shallow ascent profile. Because of this, the second stage would be started while still in relatively dense atmosphere. This led to stability concerns, especially during the separation, and to address them, 4 basic fins were added. The engine for the stage was the Wolfhound from the Roku Max, and while the decision to pick the Mammoth engine for the booster stage was rather debatable due to the extremely high cost, no one questioned the Wolfhound. While it has quite horrible low altitude performance, most of its work would be done in space anyway, and it has incredible efficiency and thrust there. It is also light and cheap, but still supports variable throttle control, which was important for the Mun maneuver. Coupled with more than 20 rated ignitions, it made for a perfect second stage engine. Just above the second stage was a payload bay for the Osiris landing module. This was the heart of the mission, and all other components were planned around it. Osiris is a two-stage vehicle capable of landing on the lunar surface and returning back to orbit. For its time, it was a state-of-the-art spacecraft with sophisticated electronics providing an unparalleled level of mission safety and reliability through high-quality components, careful design, and backup systems. The lower stage consists of a 1.8 meter tank with the PUG fuel engine assembly at the bottom. The use of the PUG engine was stipulated by its high reliability with up to 36 rated ignitions and a small amount of fuel right near the engine, which could be used to keep the engine running for a short amount of time in case the main fuel lines failed. This was important to provide safety during landing, as even a short disruption of the fuel could be disastrous. Speaking of landing, the Osiris has 4 retractable landing struts, which provided good stability on angled terrain. Even though the Osiris was supposed to land during daytime, it had 4 Mark II illuminators, which could provide good visibility of the terrain below even in complete darkness. The lower stage also carried 8 small thruster blocks and 4 monopropellant fuel tanks to improve maneuverability during the entire landing procedure, and came with 2 additional gyroscopes for fine adjustments. Also, there was a telescopic mobility enhancer near the exit from the upper stage. Around the entire circumference of the fuel tank were multiple scientific instruments, which were designed to be left on the surface of the Mun with the entire landing stage, as it would reduce the mass for the ascent module. The ascent module itself was based around the lunar excursion module and featured 8 Ant engines with abundant fuel reserves. This was crucial to ensure the safety of the crew, as it allowed the Osiris to reach orbit even with up to 3 engines suffering a complete failure. The extra fuel was also required to allow the crew to abort landing at any moment by simply detaching the lower stage early and firing up the Ant engines. In case one or more of them failed, the Osiris had multiple redundant gyroscopes and a powerful reaction control system to compensate for a sudden shift of the thrust vector. All control systems were linked to a brand new Octa2 control module, which allowed for previously unimaginable levels of automation. Obviously, redundant manual control systems were also in place. In order to provide the pilot with as much situational awareness as possible, multiple camera systems were installed. This included 2 fixed night vision cameras on the sides for landing, as well as 2 high-resolution gimbaled cameras on the front and back of the Osiris. These were also used to film the astronauts during their MUN activities. In order to send real-time video to Kerbin, Osiris had 2 deployable high-speed antennas as well as a fixed long-range module. This allowed the Osiris to maintain direct communication with Kerbin and could even be used to control it remotely. In case all of these failed, there were also 2 additional short-range antennas which could be used to communicate with the Anubis service module in MUN orbit. All of these electronics were quite power hungry, and to provide sufficient electricity, a monopropellant APU turbine was installed. But in case it failed, there was also an emergency fuel cell generator in the lunar excursion module, which burned monopropellant and oxygen to provide enough power for all essential systems. Because fuel cells are rather inefficient, an extra tank of oxygen was added to ensure there was enough of it. All this meant that the crew could choose to continue with their mission even if the primary APU turbine failed, as there was also an extra repair kit to fix it while on the surface of the MUN. While the Osiris was the main party piece of the mission, it couldn't get to MUN by itself, and this is where the service module came in. It featured the Cheetah deep space engine and a 2.5 meter service tank, which housed most of the equipment and more than enough fuel. Inside the service compartment were multiple gas tanks for hydrogen and oxygen, which were used to power 2 hydrogen fuel cells. Besides them were several battery packs which could store up to 1600 units of electricity. All this was to power 2 long-range antennas which could relay signals from Osiris to Kerbin. And this is what allowed the lander to send high-resolution video through Anubis to Kerbin in real time. So much power was also needed because of the onboard computer. It was used to store and process data from the Osiris, as transmitting all of it was impossible as it would require even more energy. The core of the service module was a Mark 1-25 command pod, which featured everything to support a crew of 3 for at least 46 days. This was a lot longer than the planned duration of the mission, but it wasn't too hard to add a little bit of extra resources just in case. Just under the command pod was a detachable heat shield for re-entry and 4 small landing legs to smooth the touchdown. During its descent, it would be supported by 2 drogue chutes for the initial deceleration, as well as 4 main parachutes. On the command pod were also 2 thermally insulated cameras to record the mission, as well as an extra life support system for redundancy. At the very top was a docking port to attach to the Osiris, and during the ascent it was covered by a detachable launch escape system designed to save the crew in case of a critical failure during the ascent. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this deeper look, and let me know if you want me to make more vehicle breakdowns in the future.